1,000 times before. Wasn't something that was new to me or something I had to handle. It was an everyday job, everyday job. It was a job he complained about many times before. Because these particular blanks were an older type. And they always presented problems to us. They're always tough to work with. They always took a big wrench or a big bar to get them to move. And they always leaked. Always leaked. And management had meant to change out these blanks and replace them with a newer type. But it was a capital expenditure, it was time and material. It was one of those jobs on a list to get done, never quite got done. It kept getting moved down on priorities. I think they're going to change them out next shutdown. Hadn't quite gotten to them yet. What they did do though, management, was they devised this procedure that you could follow to safely do this job, without these blanks leaking all over the place. But if you follow this procedure, at least as far as I was concerned, take you half the night to do this job. And there was no way in hell I planned on wasting half my night out there playing around with the blanks. Besides, I knew every shortcut to take. As I said, I did it 1,000 times before. And so did the other operators. So that's what I planned on doing. So when I got the job, I wanted to get it out of the way as quick as I could. I jumped in my truck, drove out to the manifold, jumped out, ran up the stairs and up on a platform. I started working on the blanks. I started to open up. As I started to open up, it started to leak, as I knew it would. And I opened up a little more, leaked a little more. What was in the pipeline this time was a chemical called isomerid or isomfeed. That's an octane enhancer. It just gives gasoline an extra boost. So it's real light stuff. And when it leaves, you can see the vapors coming off and running down the side. It's not the way it had to go. I could have followed the procedures and manifolded to a closed system when we leaking all over the place. But that would have taken a lot more work and, as I said, just too much trouble. Much easier to dump this stuff. Finally started to die down. I figured, great, I can finally pull this blank out and get the job over with. I reached over and grabbed the blank by the stem and I gave it a heave. From somewhere in that pipeline, to this day I don't know where, I got a surge of material. It came gushing out and hit me smack in the eyes and it ran down all over the front of me. And I often wonder, to this day, if I had had safety glasses on at the time, would I have gotten out of there in time? I honestly don't know. So I never bothered to wear safety glasses if I didn't have to. Only bosses around to tell me to get them on. I don't like safety glasses. I don't like the way they fit. I don't like the way they slid down my nose. I don't like the way they're hot and uncomfortable. And to tell you the honest to God truth, I don't like the way I looked in safety glasses, you know. They don't look macho or cool or whatever the hell way I thought you're supposed to look. Safety glasses was not it for me. So if I get away with it, I never bothered to wear them. But then again, I never really cared about any of that safety equipment. I mean, if it was night shift and there weren't any bosses around, and I happened to run out of the control house to do a job, and I forgot my helmet or my earplugs or something like that, I wasn't too concerned about that. And when I drove back and forth to work, I never wore a seatbelt. I mean, I only lived about 10 minutes away from the refinery. It wasn't like I had to drive cross country to get to work. You know how those seatbelts, they always wrinkle your clothes, they're uncomfortable. Uncomfortable as hell, like most of that safety equipment is. Like I said, if I could get away with it, I'd never bother to use it. And I often wonder if I had my safety glasses on that night, would I have gotten out of there in time? I honestly don't know. Because I got hit in the eyes with the chemical, I was temporarily blinded. And I wanted to take off running for a safety shower that was located maybe about a half a block away. And it took me a minute to get my eyes clear so I could see to run. I finally got them clear, and I took off running across the platform and down the stairs. And as I ran down the stairs, I can remember running past my truck, looking at the truck and saying to myself, oh my God! Truck's running. Of course, there's a procedure in the refinery that says you never, ever leave a vehicle running because it can become an ignition source. That's another procedure I never quite followed. I was always jumping in and out of the truck here and there to do a quick job. As I ran past the truck, I could see it coming. I can actually feel it coming. A sort of vapor drifting over the truck. saw them hit the truck, saw the truck blow, the whole area blow, and I blew with it. Now just one great big ball of flames from head to toe. And you'd think you lose consciousness when something like that happens. But you don't at all. I can remember thinking as clearly then as I'm thinking right now. I can remember debating about what I should do. Should I drop and roll on the ground and try to suffocate the flames? But I knew that wouldn't work because it was covered with this chemical. It's all rocks in here. It wasn't like dirt. And I just knew that I was going to do it. And I can remember thinking and debating. Am I going to make it to that safety shower? Should I keep on running? Or should I just stop and die where I am? But I kept on running. And finally, out of the corner of my eye, underneath the pipe racks that ran along the roadway, I can remember seeing this puddle. Looking at the puddle and saying to myself, boy, I hope that's water. And not more ice on feed. I took a flying dive and I landed in it, and thank God it was water. So I roll around and put myself out. Next thing I do is I jumped up and reached my radio to put an emergency call. My radio was gone, it was blown off. Along with a lot of my clothing. Next thing I do is start to run around and try to control this fire. I don't remember any pain, not any pain at all. I guess you went to shock. And your training takes over. And I start to run around and shut valves and turn on fire equipment and do whatever I could do just to contain this thing. And it seemed like it took forever. The emergency squad, the rescue guys, and a fire department to get to me. And I guess it did take longer than normal, because they literally had to fight their way through the flames. And the first guy that came running through the flames was a good friend of mine. Actually, he still is a good friend of mine. His name was Jose Veloso. He was an operator at Exxon. And Jose came running through, and he came running up to me. Took one look at me, and he said, Charlie, get in the ambulance, get in the ambulance. I'm saying, no, Jose, close this valve over here, shut this over there. He's looking at me like I'm totally nuts, and I was saying, no, Charlie, just get in an ambulance. So finally brought up the stretcher, and I kind of forced me down onto it face first like that, slid into the ambulance. And the EMT person aboard the ambulance that night was also a real good friend of mine. Her name was Sue. And Sue is a real professional. And when he slid me into the ambulance, I can remember looking up at Sue. She was all upset. She had tears in her eyes. That wasn't like Sue. It wasn't like her at all. I looked up at Sue and I looked back down. For the first time, I looked at my arms. And I could see it there black. I mean, they were charcoal broiled. They were swelling up and blistering, starting to ooze right in front of my eyes. And I feel my face doing exactly the same thing. I looked back up at Sue and I said, I guess I'm not cute anymore. And she started to cry like hell. And that's kind of when I knew I was in some serious trouble. And that's kind of when the pain set in. Now, when you think about pain, think about being burned on the tip of your finger with a match or a cigarette. Then think about being burned over 45 to 50% of your body. The pain is excruciating. There is no way I can possibly describe to you what that pain was like. I just kept screaming in that ambulance, please let me die, let me die. But of course they wouldn't, they wouldn't. And they took me to the closest hospital, our facility. It was called the Alexian Brothers Hospital. It's probably around 2 miles away. When they get you to the hospital, first thing they do is they shoot you up with every kind of painkiller known to man. They give you morphine and Demerol and whatever they can possibly give you pain, they give you. And that, as far as I'm concerned, does absolutely nothing for the pain. Absolutely nothing. And all I want to do is just die. I was actually praying to die. That's how bad the pain was. I wasn't afraid of dying. I really wasn't. I would have welcomed it. You know what I was afraid of, though? I was afraid I was going to die there. And I was going to die there alone. And nobody's going to know it. You know, my family wasn't going to know it. And that frightened the hell out of me. And at one point there, The whole body swells up, unbelievably, blows up, totally out of proportion. And at one point, this arm in particular had swollen up to twice its normal size. Not exaggerating when I say it, just like that. And its swelling was choking off the blood to a major artery, so it had to relieve the pressure. As they laid it, took a scalpel, slit my arm from one end to the other. The blood just shot all over the place. And the pain was horrendous, horrendous. And they couldn't give me any more painkillers because they figured I would just overdose. And they couldn't give me an anesthesia because they figured I was going to wake up again. And I had to lay there and watch them do all this. It was horrible. It was horrible. It was about that time that I arrested. I stopped breathing. And from what they told me, the doctors came running in, they gave me a needle in the chest, and they jump-started me. And they did what they had to do to get me going again. And they made the decision then that as soon as they could stabilize me, they're going to have to transfer me to a burn unit. I was only going to die where I was. They just didn't have the facilities there to keep me going. And they finally were able to stabilize me. They shipped me off to St. Barnabas burn unit. St. Barnabas happens to be one of the better burn hospitals in the country. And when they get you to Barnabas, the burn unit itself is located underground. They take the ambulance and they back down this big long ramp. There's a loading dock. It's a regular loading dock. And you take out a special stretcher, have this overhead crane that comes out, comes down, picks you up, stretches you up, takes you inside to this room. It's called a tanking room. And what this room is, it's full of these great big stainless steel tanks. They're called Hubbard tanks. They're like great big bathtubs. They're full of water, Clorox, and different antibiotics. They take you in there in a crane, and you lower it down to those tanks. And remember before I told you about the pain of being burned over 45 to 50% of your body? Well, that pain is nothing compared to the pain of being lowered down into those tanks. Because what they have to do in there is called debriding. And what that is, they have to peel off all of the dead skin. Unfortunately, when they do that, all the live skin comes with it, and nerve endings come with it. And the screams in the tanking room are horrendous. Horrendous. My own screams, the screams from the other people that were in there. Barnabas had facilities for 12 burn victims. 12 people, just like you and I. 12 people said accidents don't happen to them. Accidents happen to the other guy. Barnabas was full when I was in there. 9 of those people died. 3 of us walked out. I was one of the lucky ones. I want to call this luck. You know, if you call it St. Barnabas Hospital right now, right there in front of the hospital's full. Right now. Of people just like you and I. No different. Some of the people in the burn hospital, when I was in there, people like my roommate in there. His name was Lewis Washington. And Lewis was a young guy. And Lewis was in a motorcycle accident. He'd run a stop sign on his motorcycle, and he got into a crash with a car. The gasoline tank on the motorcycle roughly exploded. And that's how Lewis went up. There's another guy in there who was a regular family guy. He had a barbecue in his backyard. Went outside and light his gas grill, turned on the grill, and he forgot his matches. Running back inside to get the matches, then turned off the grill. Came running back out again and struck the match because it flashed him. And he went up. And there was this young lady. I didn't know her, but I actually knew her family really well. She was about 17 or 18 years old, and she was going to college and having this dance. It was basically a Halloween dance. And she went to the dance dressed up as a mummy. They'd wrapped her up in gauze and rags from head to toe. And she went to the dance, and somebody was lighting a cigarette. She backed up in a match. And she went up. And she was burned over 90% of her body.